The red recording light flicked on for the final time. David Gilmour's fingers trembled slightly as he adjusted his guitar strap, not from nerves, but from the weight of 30 years crashing down on him. Across the mixing board, Rick Wright sat hunched over his keyboards, his once confident demeanor now fragile as glass. Nick Mason methodically arranged his drumsticks, the same ritual he'd performed thousands of times.
We tried a slightly different approach, and we went into the studios for a couple of weeks, just the three of us playing together.
But this time felt different. Final. What you're about to discover will shatter everything you thought you knew about the Division Bell sessions. Because while the world celebrated Pink Floyd's triumphant return inside Britannia Row Studios, 3 men were quietly suffocating under the ghost of their missing 4th member. The year was 1993. Roger Waters had been gone for 7 years, but his shadow still dominated every conversation, every creative decision, every moment of silence that stretched too long between takes. Gilmour carried the crushing burden of proving Pink Floyd could survive, his perfectionism now bordering on obsession.
I went off to try and start writing lyrics to France, and my girlfriend Polly came with me, and she encouraged me. She kept telling me to keep working, sit in front of that word processor and bash away.
Wright, once banished from the band, moved through the sessions like a man walking on eggshells, afraid that one wrong note might send him back into exile. And Mason, the diplomatic heartbeat of the group, found himself desperately trying to hold together what was already falling apart. The tapes from those sessions reveal something far more devastating than creative differences. They captured the sound of a brotherhood dying. John Karen, the session musician brought in to help, witnessed something that would haunt him for decades. Years later, he finally revealed the devastating truth.
At the time of Division Bell, Rick and I were really hoping it would be a record like Wish You Were Here. Maybe 4 extended songs. As Division Bell progressed, the songs got shorter and poppier, and Rick completely lost interest and was quite upset at how it was turning out, and I was left to do most of the keyboards.
Rick Wright, the man whose keyboards had painted the sonic landscapes of Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here, was being sidelined in his own band. His creative vision was being systematically ignored. But here's where it gets truly heartbreaking, Karen continued. And that's when I started playing more keyboards on the record, because Rick had sort of thrown his hands up.
I played all of the piano on Division Bell. I play the piano on High Hopes, A Great Day for Freedom, Lost for Words, Marooned. The wah-wah Wurlitzer piano on What Do You Want From Me? Harmonium on Lost for Words. Pretty much the bulk of the synths on the record. B3 on Keep Talking, Lost for Words, What Do You Want From Me? Marooned. A Great Day for Freedom.
Imagine being Rick Wright in that moment. You've spent your entire career crafting the atmospheric soundscapes that defined Pink Floyd's identity, and now you're watching a session musician take over your role because your own bandmates won't listen to your ideas. The sessions dragged on for months at Britannia Row Studios and later on Gilmour's Astoria houseboat. What should have been a creative renaissance became a slow-motion disaster. Wright's frustration grew with each passing day as his contributions were minimized in favor of a more commercial direction.
The tracks were cut to click tracks and slaved to MIDI with Mac computers. I asked Phil Taylor to let me ransack the equipment warehouse, drag the Selena, Minimoog, Farfisa to the boat. Then I did the Wurlitzer and B3 at Keith Grant's studio, then played the Fazioli grand piano at Metropolis on Marooned, High Hopes, and A Great Day for Freedom. So it had a slightly more natural palette.
David Gilmour later admitted something that reveals just how broken their communication had become.
In the aftermath of Roger leaving and the whole Rift bullshit, we felt a boisterous, up sort of record was appropriate. This time I didn't really care if there was an up song or not. I just wanted to make it a more reflective album. I read some crits that said it's a bit soporific. So be it. That's the choice we made.
This wasn't just about creative differences anymore. This was about 3 men who had shared some of music's most transcendent moments together, yet couldn't find a way to express their artistic visions to each other. The Division Bell was released in March 1994 to massive commercial success, but the victory felt hollow. Behind the polished production and radio-friendly songs lay the wreckage of what Pink Floyd had once been. Wright's desire for thematic unity, the very quality that had made albums like The Wall and Animals masterpieces, had been sacrificed for marketability. But the story doesn't end there. In a move that would prove even more devastating, the band attempted to record a follow-up album between 1995 and 1996. These sessions, held once again at Britannia Row, were supposed to be Pink Floyd's triumphant return to form. Instead, they became the final nail in the coffin. The creative well had run completely dry. The magic that had once flowed so naturally between these three musicians was gone, replaced by awkward silences and creative paralysis. After months of fruitless attempts, the sessions were quietly abandoned. Pink Floyd, as a creative entity, was finished. Rick Wright would later reflect on this period with barely concealed bitterness. In a rare 1996 interview, he spoke about the creative disagreements that had torn the band apart, though he was careful not to name names. The pain in his voice was unmistakable as he described watching his artistic vision being dismissed by the very people he'd helped make famous. The final insult came in 2014 with The Endless River. David Gilmour's reflection on this album reveals just how far Pink Floyd had fallen.
My mistake, I suppose, was in being bullied by the record company to have it out as a properly paid-for Pink Floyd record. It should have been clear what it was. It was never intended to be the follow-up to the Division Bell, but, it's never too late to get caught in one of these traps again.
The word bullied is devastating. Here was David Gilmour, the man who had fought so hard to prove Pink Floyd could survive without Roger Waters, admitting that he had been coerced into releasing material that he knew wasn't worthy of the Pink Floyd name. The Endless River was cobbled together from outtakes and unused material from those very Division Bell sessions that had destroyed the band 20 years earlier. It featured Rick Wright's keyboards prominently throughout, keyboards that had been largely sidelined during the original recordings. It was as if Wright was finally getting his say, but only after death had silenced him forever. Looking back at the complete arc of Pink Floyd's final chapter, a heartbreaking pattern emerges. These weren't just recording sessions. They were three men trying to rediscover their musical identity after losing the member who had defined so much of their creative process. But instead of finding that identity, they discovered that the magic they were searching for couldn't be manufactured or forced. John Carin's observation about agreeing with Rick Wright's vision takes on profound meaning when you consider the full context. Here was an outsider brought in to help facilitate the creative process, watching as the band's own keyboardist was marginalized in favor of commercial considerations. Wright's desire for music that was more thematic, with all the music having a logical link, wasn't just artistic preference. It was the essence of what Pink Floyd had always been. From the conceptual unity of Dark Side of the Moon to the narrative flow of The Wall, Pink Floyd's greatest achievements had always been about creating complete artistic statements. But by 1993, the pressures were different. The music industry had changed. Radio wanted shorter songs. Record companies wanted immediate hits. These external pressures, combined with their internal communication problems, created a perfect storm that would ultimately destroy their creative partnership. The tragedy isn't just that Pink Floyd's final recording sessions failed to recapture their past glory. It's that they revealed how far the band had drifted from the collaborative spirit that had created that glory in the first place. The magic that creates legendary music isn't just about individual talent. It's about the mysterious alchemy that happens when talented individuals truly collaborate. The Division Bell stands as both Pink Floyd's final creative statement and a monument to what they had lost. It succeeded commercially while failing artistically, proving that the Pink Floyd brand was stronger than Pink Floyd, the creative entity.